So today is Tuesday, October the 26th, 2021, and you are?
Kenzie Milligan.
And Kenzie Milligan, how old are you?
I'm 16.
You're 16 years old.
Yes.
And do you have a job? Do you work somewhere? Do you do something that produces you money or income?
Just houses.
Just houses?
Just houses.
So you're a real estate investor?
Correct.
At 16 years old?
Mm-hmm.
The first question I would have for you is, I'm told that anyone who's under 18 years old, because they can't sign a contract, cannot do real estate. Is that true?
That's false.
That's false. How come that's false?
You can always, there's always a loophole for something.
There's always a loophole for, I like her so much. Okay, so where do you live?
Douglasville, Georgia.
And where do you go to school?
Alexander High School.
And what grade are you in?
10th.
You're in 10th grade,
Yes.
So you're in high school. And tell me about your family. Start with your sister.
My sister, she's very smart. She is in Italy
Why is she in Italy?
because she didn't want to go to college.
So what is she doing?
She's traveling the world,
And what is that doing for her?
getting her experience and like culturally diverse.
She's learning how to handle herself.
Yes.
Has she been in any tight spots?
Yes.
And she's learning how to handle herself in tight spots, right?
Yes.
So you said she's really smart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is she a good big sister?
Most of the time.
Most of the time. And does she do anything to earn money, to bring in money to earn?
She also does houses.
She also does houses.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a real estate investor.
Correct.
Okay. Tell me about your mother.
My mom, she is very sweet once you get to know her. And she also does houses. My whole family does. And I am
Do you remember when your mother worked? Had a job?
It was a very long time ago.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
But she worked at a JOB,
Mm-hmm.
right? And do you like it now that she has done what it took, where she's, your folks are financially free, where she doesn't have to go to the JOB every day?
Yes.
Did that play a part in your wanting to become a real estate investor?
100%.
How so?
I have this memory of when I was at my private school. My mom was always busy working that she could never come to any of our field trips, and she actually only made it to once, like one out of all of the events that we've been to. And so when she was finally out and she got to do everything with us, that's when I realized that I didn't want to go to a job.
How important was it to you to have her at these functions?
It was very important to me.
How come?
Because I love my family over anything else, and so to have my mom beside me meant the world to me.
Pretty cool. Tell me about your dad.
He is crazy, smart but crazy, and I'm very thankful for both of my parents because of how they brought me up to be where I am now.
When you say how they brought you up, give me some examples of how they brought you up.
Well, when I was growing up, I wasn't like grown up like, I guess you could say, the normal kids, because I would always be at houses or I would be cleaning up a yard for them, and then I didn't appreciate it like I did now, but now that I'm in the business, I appreciate all of the knowledge that they've taught me.
When you say normal kids, what do the normal kids do? What makes them normal?
Their parents go to like a 9-to-5 job, and they don't necessarily they don't have vacation time like we do, and they can't just get up and leave whenever they want.
Do you think your parents had to make sacrifices in order to achieve becoming successful real estate investors?
Of course.
What type of sacrifices do you think they made?
When we first started out, we may or may not have been able to go out with friends or something because the money may have been tight, but we still got to spend time together, and that's all that was important.
Do y'all do very many family trips?
All the time.
Like what? What are some of the places you've been?
I've been to Ecuador, all over the United States.
Do you like to travel?
Yes.
Me too. When did you start investing in real estate? Where you said, I want to be a part of this. And not where your mom and dad said, hey, you're going to come clean this house. But this was now your idea where you went, wait, how old were you when this happened and what happened?
It was probably the summer of 8th grade going into 9th grade, so like 2019. Because that's when I saw all of my friends start getting jobs. And I realized, and so I started looking at jobs and I realized that was not for me. And I just wasn't the fit for it.
Why was that not for you? I mean, everybody is told to go get a job and you usually get paid an hourly wage. Why was that not for you?
Because the thought of working for someone is awful. I would do anything to not have to work for someone. And I just like being able to do what I want when I want and not being tied to one place.
Okay, so about 2019 is when you said, hey, do you know what, okay, so you didn't want, your friends were getting jobs, you didn't want the jobs, they went that way. Do your friends look at you as different, being different?
I have really good friends now. Before, they looked at me like I was crazy. But the friends that I have now are very supportive, and every time I see them, they'll ask me what new house I found, and they're just a big part of why I love it, because they are so supportive, and so are their families.
That's pretty neat. Mm-hmm. So why real estate investing? You can do anything you want to do. You can start a business. Why real estate?
I like to see the before and after of the really destructive to something that's really pretty.
Do you like rehabbing?
Not myself, but I like paying people to do it.
Okay, who comes up with the ideas of how the house will be rehabbed?
Well, if it's my house, it's mine.
So you're the one that picks the countertops, and so let's say you're going to do a rehab. The house is in bad shape, needs a good bit of work. How do you? You're the one that's in charge of putting it together. So how do you do that? What does that job look like?
Well, first I meet with the contractors and I pick the flooring I want, or the paint color.
Where do you find the flooring?
That I use my parents' flooring guys and the painters. But from there, I tell them what colors I want, and they paint swatches, and I say I like this one or I don't like any of them, and we start over, or we go from where I liked it.
And are you using any special formula to come up with what colors you want in the house?
Most of the time, if it's like a small house, my first house was really small, and so I did white, but I knew I wanted to add some black accents, and so I did the door frames and stuff like that black, so I still had some black, but it wasn't the whole house to make it look smaller than it already was.
Yeah, and it turned out really pretty?
Yes.
Pretty neat. What role does your mom and dad play in you becoming a real estate investor, and then you doing this on the day-to-day basis? What role do they play?
They've been...
Break it down. You should go to your mom first, because they each have a different role in your life.
Okay. My mom is more like me, and so when I have an idea, she more normally agrees with it, where my dad is the complete opposite and he disagrees with it. So having an idea of something that they have more experience with and her agreeing with it makes me feel confident in what I wanted to do.
Okay. And what role does your dad play?
He is the one who pushes me to get out of my box and to go talk to people and to go to meetings. Even when I don't feel like talking to people, he always pushes me to go the extra mile and go up to them first and get their number.
Well, let's use that as an example. So about a week or so ago, Danny Williams had his meeting.
Yes.
And you were there, and I was talking to someone you know, Keith, and he was there and he was watching you at the meeting. So without you knowing, this past weekend, he and I were at a seminar and we were talking about you. And he said, so there you are, and you're at this meeting. What were you doing at the meeting?
I was talking to any of the lenders I could find for private money for any of my upcoming projects and to make new friendships.
Now he said you were working that room like nobody's ever seen before. He said she was not 16 years old. He said she was working that room, and he said I felt sorry when Linda had a minute and they weren't really with someone. He said Kenzie was on them and just wouldn't let them go and was talking to them, and you know. So when you were talking to these lenders, what were some of the questions you were asking?
I was asking questions like how comfortable they were with how big the project was. So like the bigger the project, how comfortable their comfortability of like the bigness of it. And so if it was like this one lady, she didn't have much, but she just had money sitting there and she didn't know what to do with it, so she was getting the lending, so that I would use for like my houses. But I have some big dreams that I am working towards achieving.
Ooh, whoa. Okay, now we gotta stop.
Okay.
So what are some of these big dreams?
I want to start an assisted living, and that's
what is assisted living?
It's basically a house that these older people who can't take care of themselves go to, and they pay to stay in this room, and they have doctors and everything they need in this house or wherever it is taking care of them. But I wanted to do activities so they're not like bored, so they're not just sitting the whole time.
What made you want to do this?
My grandfather was in an assisted living and they did not treat him well, and that's what got my passion of wanting to start one that everyone felt like family and were treated the way they should be.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so you want to do assisted living. What are some of your other big dreams?
I want to start a ranch out in the middle of nowhere that's not like too far out, but still like no one's around. And I want to have cows and horses, and it just be like an Airbnb that they can go horseback riding on, and just have like cooks there to make like country food to say. Or
why didn't you buy our ranch when we sold it?
Because I didn't know, I wasn't aware at the time.
Well, sure, at the time you were probably been 11 years old, but you could have taken that deal down. We would have worked with you. Other big dreams?
So this one I am working on achieving, like this is probably the first one I'll probably get to, but I don't know if you know Mike Hicks. He does
I know Michael Hicks.
The container homes.
Yeah.
I was driving down the road the other day and I saw a tractor trailer, one of the Toys R Us ones, the ones they don't use anymore, and I was like, that would be really cool to be an Airbnb. And so what I wanted to do was get some unrestricted land and put a bunch of the back of tractor trailers on and make it a little like camp area.
Have you been to Michael's container homes that he built in Chattanooga?
I have not, but I've seen pictures of them.
Why haven't you been there yet?
Because my parents didn't take me. They left me.
They left you?
Yes.
If I wasn't leaving this week or next week, I would be. You and I would go see Michael Hicks because I want to go see his container homes. Because one thing to see him in pictures, it's another thing to see him. Do you know what he's doing right now? What he's building right now?
A tree house.
A tree house, a VRBO tree house. Wouldn't that be neat to see?
That would be amazing.
So, where do you see yourself? Where are you in your real estate investing career? Are you a starter, estate builder? You're not an ender yet. So which are you, starter or estate builder?
I would say starter, or working my way up.
So start working hard toward the estate building, because estate building means you're acquiring properties. You know, you don't want to sell them, you want to keep them, and they're going to pay you for a long period of time. So you're a starter moving toward estate builder.
Yes.
Good for you. Do you primarily invest by yourself, or do you have a partner?
I normally do them myself with the help of my parents.
So when you get a house, are you the only one on the warranty deed, or is there other people there? You may use a trust, but I'm saying, who owns the property?
My parents, because I'm not 18 yet.
Oh, you can own a house. If they're telling you you can't, you could be on the warranty deed.
You're the beneficiary of the trust.
Oh, that's what it says. You're using a trust. So you are the owner of the property.
Okay.
You're it. Okay.
They'll go with the trust.
How big of an area do you work?
Right now we're just working in Carrollton.
And why Carrollton?
Because I didn't want, Douglasville isn't my area, and I just like Carrollton a lot better.
But don't you live in Douglasville?
Yes.
What do you mean it's not your area?
I want to move so bad.
Where do you want to move to?
Carrollton.
Carrollton. Are you eyeballing a house or two that you'd like to have out there?
Yes.
And have your parents said that they would move if you found them a house? Do you think maybe that you could buy that house, have them move into it, and you have an option to buy the house back from them at some point in the future?
We've talked about moving, but we have not talked about an option.
So describe the beginning, the first couple months. So you start looking at real estate investing and say, I want to do this. What was it like those first few months?
Of like the renovation? Or?
You said, I want to learn more. You know, your friends were getting jobs, you know, at Burger King or wherever, and you said, I want to do real estate investing, and you want to get into some houses. What were those first few months like for you? What were you doing? How did you feel?
I was not gonna lie, I felt a little discouraged because my parents didn't really take me seriously, because before that I really wasn't big into houses, and so I would go out and I would try and find houses, but they would never work out, and just my parents not necessarily not believing me, but didn't actually think I was serious about doing it. It was like a little discouraging. But once I got started, all of that discouragement went away.
How?
I don't know. It's just like this, I don't know.
Did your parents change their opinions? Did they start believing in you when they started watching what you were doing? When did they look and say, hey, wait, she's serious about this?
When we went and first looked at the house, my first house, my dad was down in Tampa, and I texted him the address, and he was just like, okay, it's just another house she wants. And then I kept pestering about it, and then he went and looked at it, and he was like, oh, this is a nice house, like, she could do this. And so I bought it, and from there they were very supportive. I mean, they've always been supportive, but
you had to produce something. You had to stay at it and produce something. You had to make it happen, right?
yes,
Do you remember the first time you door knocked?
I do.
Do you door knock? Let me ask that question first.
Yes.
Are you scared to door knock?
No.
But I hear all these stories about why you should be scared and terrified of door knocking. You're 15 years old. Why aren't you scared of door knocking?
Because it's always going to be scary the first knock on the door or the first time you do it, but once you get a hang of it, it's like second nature.
And what type of reception do you normally get at the door? How do people treat you?
They treat me very kindly, and they're open to talking to me. And if they can't sell a house, 90% of the time they point me in the direction of a house that's being sold.
And when you say they point, they're like traffic cops, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
They just start, show me.
They're like, that house over there, over here.
Yeah, they remind me of traffic cops. They come out and they just start pointing to all these houses, and they all do it. It's like they all went to the same school, and I don't know what school they went to, but it's a school of pointing, and they point to every house around them. Well, that lady over here and this guy over here. When you were doing that first house, what was your skill level? What did you know how to do?
I knew, I guess you could say, the basics. Like, I knew a little bit about all of it, but I never had went into the deep about dealing with the contractors and seeing it be done and being on top of them to make sure it was done right.
How hard is it to work with contractors? You're 16. Most of them are grown men. I know Dorsey, they used to just blow Dorsey off, and she would get frustrated by that. So how do you deal with that?
is frustrating because most of the time they don't take me seriously, and it's very annoying for them to be like, oh, okay, now let me go talk to your mom or let me talk to your dad, when it's my decision to be made. And it's annoying when they're just like, oh, you can't do that.
As you said you're a starter looking toward becoming an estate builder. What are the biggest hurdles you're having to clear right now?
I would say people knocking me down for how old I actually am. Because there's a lot of people out there saying I can't do it, when in reality that's not true.
And how do you deal with that?
I pick myself back up and I prove them wrong. And I go to someone who does believe in me and believes that I can do it.
I can't say that any better than that. So in that very first real estate investing deal, how did you find it?
We were driving down the road because I saw this house that I knew I wasn't going to buy, but I wanted to look at it because
Why?
I liked the kitchen. And we were going back home and we had to pass through the rest of the neighborhood, and I saw a sign that said for sale by owner, and right then and there I made my mom pull over and I was like, I gotta text Dad, I want to put an offer on it, I want to go see it. And so we went and saw it when he came home.
So when he got back he was in Tampa, you said, so he's probably at a seminar.
Yeah.
And so when he came home, you said,
I had already texted him the address and he wasn't doing it fast enough.
you're worried somebody's gonna get the house.
Yes. So I kept saying, hey Dad, call the person, you need to call him before somebody else does. And he eventually did. And the same day he called, 30 minutes later, he met us at the house and we walked through it.
So you met us at the house?
Yes.
You and your dad?
Me, my dad, and my mom.
Okay. And so did y'all talk in the yard or did you go inside?
We went inside.
And where did you sit once you were inside?
Once we had looked through the house, we sat in the living room.
Okay.
By the fireplace.
And what happened?
We talked about how, the problems with the property and what needed to be fixed, or what he said was wrong with it, to get an idea. And then after that, I don't know if this is relevant, but he mostly talked about how I should work at his daughter's law firm.
Why did he feel you should work at his daughter's law firm?
Because he was very impressed of how I was doing it at the age of 16 or 15 at the time, when I was very adamant and went and actually did it, instead of just saying, oh, I want to do it.
How did that make you feel?
It made me feel really good.
It does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how did this deal get closed? What was said where he said yes to you?
It didn't take much, actually. I think we asked $10,000 lower than the asking price. The next day we went and looked at it, and the same day, a few hours later, I think, actually he accepted it. And he even offered to cut down some of the trees for us.
So when he accepted it, did he do it with a phone call or text? How did you find out?
I think he called us.
Okay, and how did you find out?
I was sleeping, so my mom came and woke me up.
And she said?
She said, I just wanted to come and tell you that you got the house and we're closing. And then she told us the closing date, or told me.
And what did you do?
I got very excited because after, like I was saying earlier, after the time of the discouragement, actually seeing something be in place and knowing that I actually did it was very exciting.
How did you fund it? They accepted your offer. Did you have the money?
No.
So how did you make this? How did you finance this deal?
Private money.
Okay. And where the private? Don't use names, but define the terms of the private money.
I don't know what you're asking me.
Okay, so you borrowed the money from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they didn't give you the money.
No.
Okay, so you had to pay that money back, right?
Yes, through interest.
Okay, do you know what the interest rate is?
It was 8 or 9%.
Okay. Is it for how long?
30 years.
30 years. Do you remember what the payments are?
I think it's 117. I'm not sure.
Okay, you're fine.
Okay.
So, but you did use a private money lender
Yes.
in order to fund this deal.
Mm-hmm.
So, were you at closing?
I was.
And where did y'all close this deal?
Tysinger.
Okay. And what was that closing like to sit there for the first? Was that your first time in an attorney's office?
No.
Okay, so you've been to other closings with your mom and dad,
Mm-hmm.
but this time, this is your house you're closing on.
Yes.
How did that feel?
You can't describe the feeling. It was amazing. I was ready to get out of there just to go look at my house.
Okay, so when y'all left the attorney's office, so you closed the deeds now with you guys, what did you do first? You left the attorney's office and?
Well, we went and ate, and we actually called you. And then
Was it a celebration eat?
Yes.
Yes. What did you have? Do you remember?
We had Jerry's.
Is this your favorite place?
No, but it's really good.
Okay.
And then we went back to the house so I could look at it.
And when you pulled into the yard, when you got out of the car and you're standing on your driveway,
Mm-hmm.
and you're standing on your grass, and you're opening your door,
Mm-hmm.
and you're standing in your home, what was going through your mind?
It was like my baby. And I was like, I had so many plans going through my head. So as soon as it was like mine, I went through and I was like, I want to do this, this, and this. Or I thought that would be cool. And I just started thinking of all of the ideas where I can fix it up to make it like perfect.
Do you know, what would you say to someone who's in their 30s or 40s and has never owned a house? What would you say to them?
Anyone can do it. And it is scary change, but once you change, it's a lifetime.
When you were doing this deal, how scared were you?
I would say I was more happy and excited than I was scared. There was still some moments that I was freaking out. We had 10 days to completely renovate it. And
You only had 10 days?
yes, because we already had someone moving in.
How did you find them?
They needed a short-term rental, and they were trying to rent my dad's house, and he wanted long-term, and I was okay with renting for 6 months, and so my dad sent them my way, and they needed a place to stay because they sold their house to build a new one.
Wait a minute, we got to stop. So that was a great line. So my dad sent them my way. You're 15 years old and you own a house, and your dad sent them your way because you owned a house that you could rent out. Mm-hmm. That's just fantastic. Okay, so you could do short-term rental. Did you charge higher rent because it was short-term?
I did.
Okay, and then you had to push to get the rehab done in 10 days.
Yes.
Were you doing any of the work there? Were you at the house a good bit?
I was at the house almost all 10 days that we were working on it.
Good. And did you learn some new skills?
Yes.
Like what?
Like which way is easier to pull trees, or how to hold the tree to throw it in the dumpster. Not any big skills,
But you learned.
Yes.
Again, it's just learning little layers of a cake, right? Mm-hmm. Each time you learn something, it's just another layer of the cake. What character roles that you possess play the most important roles in you being successful at real estate investing?
I like to say that I have a good heart, and I love helping people, and I think you definitely need some of that in real estate, because when you're going to knock on people's doors and you're asking them why you're selling this house and they tell you your problems, then you need to be charismatic and have problem solving so you can both benefit yourself and the person.
Who have been your most important teachers?
You and my mom and dad.
Have you sat and listened to Pete?
Mm-hmm.
Has he helped at all? Do you understand what he's going over or what he's talking about?
Most of the things he says, I can grasp and understand.
Do you understand that most adults, people who are 40, 50 years old, cannot grasp what he's talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What do Pete's biggest lesson is you got to find people to help problems to solve. That's what we do. How does that ring true with you?
Every house has something that needs to be solved, whether it's big or small. But every single house you come across, there's going to be one thing that you're going to have to solve.
How do you find out what that thing is?
By talking to people. And
when you say talking to, do you mean talking to or asking questions of?
asking questions.
These days, what type of investing you're doing? So we talked about the first deal you did. So these days, what's on your plate? What are you looking at?
Right now, I'm just door knocking and seeing which houses, and just that's about it.
Well, when you leave here,
mm-hmm.
we just had lunch together. But when you leave here, where are you going?
Door knocking.
Is there something specific, a certain place you're going to stop by?
Anywhere in Carrollton.
Because you like Carrollton.
Yes.
I like Carrollton a lot too. If you could only use, of the deal structuring tools that you know about, if you could only use one deal structuring tool, what would that be? What tool do you like best?
Master Weeks.
Why?
I don't know, I just feel like it's the most common.
Do you feel you'd be good at renting somebody's property from them and taking care of the tenants?
Yes.
How come?
Because it's just like taking care of your own, but you have a bigger responsibility because it's not yours.
And it is. It's a bigger responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
What's your week look like right now? What do you do during the week? How do you spend your time?
Well, every day I go to school, and then after school I try and go to a meeting. For the last few weeks I've had at least one meeting a week.
When you say meeting,
It's
what's the topic?
mostly Airbnbs at the moment.
But it's real estate.
Yes.
So when you say meeting, it's not Girl Scouts.
Mm-mm.
It's real estate.
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to at least one meeting a week. How about weekends? What are you doing?
My weekends are pretty busy, like with friends and stuff, but when I am free, I try to drag my dad out to door knock or go look at houses as much as we can.
Have you thought about how much fun we're going to have when you and me and your dad go door knocking together?
Yeah.
That's going to be a good time, isn't it? I'm busted. Okay. What's the single best piece of advice you can give to an investor who's just starting off? They've never done a deal. They're just getting to their first meeting. They're just starting. They haven't made an offer yet. What piece of advice would you give them? It could be more than one if you want to.
I would just say the one that I've said a few times, but anyone can do it, and also take the risk, because it is truly a life-changing experience when you do.
What do you want to do, quote unquote, when you grow up?
I want to continue real estate and travel the world.
What are the biggest obstacles you've had to face? In other words, there's reasons to not go out and talk to sellers. There's reasons to not go knock on that door. There's things that will say, oh, don't go do this. Not just people. It's just, you're like, I don't want to go do it today. I'm tired. I want to read this book. So those are the obstacles that prevent you from moving forward. What are those obstacles?
My number one would probably be fear
Of?
For like starting, like that's not going to work, or like what if it doesn't work, and then just mentally preparing yourself for it.
To achieve success, is sacrifice required?
100%.
You've had to make sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the sacrifices you've made?
This one's not that big of a deal to most people, but I had to skip out on a lot of friend, like, get-togethers and stuff with school, like football games, to be at my house and to go to meetings.
It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Were they worth it? Were the
Yes.
sacrifices worth it?
Mm-hmm.
How come?
Because I could still see my friends a different weekend. It's not like I couldn't talk to them, but it's also most of the people you're friends with now, you won't be in the long run, and what will help you in the long run is your houses.
Okay, so I don't know if this has happened to you yet. Have you hit the proverbial brick wall? I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, that will happen to you. You will hit the brick wall. I don't want to do this anymore. In the past, there's been different things you've done where you've hit that wall, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What keeps you going where you go on past that barrier? You don't quit. What are some of the things that you do that allow you, that keep you from quitting?
I think that you should take a step back and just, normally that comes out of frustration or some other feeling. Just take a step back and calm yourself down and realize what do you actually want to do, and then from there continue to push forward. And another thing is, if you're burnt out on one thing like houses or like renting, you could do something else like Airbnb or pad split, so you don't have to continue doing the same exact thing.
So a lot of people in real estate investing, like 99.5%, run into this brick wall and they do quit. So let's say someone's watching this and they're at that point. What advice do you give them?
I would probably say, if you truly love what you do, even if you are the point where you're ready to quit, that if you love it as much as you say you do, then no matter what obstacle comes in the way, you will continue to do it.
What's the single most important lesson you've ever learned in your life?
That people may not take you seriously, so you need to get up and prove yourself that you're worthy of doing what you do.
Thus far, what have you done right?
I have friends and I have contacts, and I already have my houses, so.
You've done something.
Mm-hmm.
What have you done wrong? You can say nothing.
Well, I don't feel like nothing's the right answer, but I can't think of something off the top of my head.
Okay. And what haven't you done that you wished you would have done?
Started sooner.
Started sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Like at what age?
I don't think a lot sooner, but maybe like a year or two.
And what would that have done for you?
Jump started me on something that I love to do.
What turns you on?
I would say finding a house that looks rough and just knowing in the end it's gonna look like a completely different house.
What turns you off?
Does it have to be broad?
You done anything to do with real estate? What turns you off?
It would probably be like rough to the point where there's no saving it, like fire houses or foundational issues.
Yeah, okay. What's your favorite sound?
Sound.
What's your favorite sound?
Probably the little machine that like breaks up tile.
What's your least favorite sound?
I guess I have a better offer, or I'm not accepting your offer, or something like that.
Yeah, okay. When one day when you get to the pearly gate and you're standing there, what would you like to hear God say to you?
That I did what I was meant to do.
You're done. You did so great. Take a deep breath. Blow out. Take another deep breath. Blow out. One more. Deep breath. Blow out. Sit back.